Hello and welcome to another Drunken Guardian podcast episode. I'm your host, Danny Martinez, and today we got two guests today. We got the Sober Guardian, Danny, as always. Say hi. Did he
Hey,
step
what's up,
away?
y'all?
Okay.
I
And
went to
then
grab my water,
that's,
but you no
oh,
longer. Go.
wow. And then I asked you if you were ready. And then Zoe there. Say hi, Zoe. I know I don't really have a tag name for you.
Funny.
You want to go as Bunny. And then so today we got Zoe here because she is a huge Nintendo fan. Not that we're not. I guess we play Nintendo games. I've been playing them forever, and Danny's been playing them forever. But specifically, Zoe's got the Switch 2. So we want to get an opinion, another perspective on things on someone who actually has the Switch 2 versus me and Danny who just have the Switch 1, and just Nintendo as a whole, how they've been taking care of the fans or not taking care of the fans, so to speak, how they've been treating the industry in general, how they've been doing so far, and our thoughts and opinions on not just the system but Nintendo as a whole. So just a couple of things out there. I wanted to first and foremost talk about the price point of the Nintendo Switch 2, which is $449.99, so $450 pretty much. And it released, what is it, about 2-3 months ago right now? It's June 5th. Today is what, August 14th. So it's been out for a couple of months. And to compare, the Switch 1 was pretty much $300 and was released in March of 2017, which is an 8-year difference. So we got 8 years between the first and second iteration of Nintendo's consoles, which is kind of a typical, I guess, console span. Usually about 10 years, you could say, maybe even 12 years at the most, pushing it, that a system will come out with a console. But it feels like nowadays they're coming out with consoles a lot more quickly because they're just slight more advanced iterations of the previous now. They don't go with like huge leaps and bounds anymore. Um, so Zoe, you've had both systems. What were your thoughts on the games that they're offering when the Switch 2 was released? Because I kind of felt that it was a bit lackluster.
Oh, so lackluster. Oh my gosh. I mean, okay. So I know I've said this so many times, but the fact that there was not an Animal Crossing announcement, I will never
I
not be
mentioned
upset
that.
about. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean it was their most biggest recent uh game that, went from a cult classic to a huge, like a worldwide phenomenon, especially because of COVID and everything. I know that they were, promising a lot of like update stuff that ended, 2 years, I think it was 2.5 years. That everybody is like hoping for more and X, Y, and Z. And there was just, radio silence. And granted, they have a lot of stock in the Pokemon, or the, not Pokemon, the Animal Crossing Pocket Edition. So I'm not too surprised, but also, Pokemon also make the announcement that they were prolonging their next game release so that they can have more time to invest in their game was awesome. But again, the Switch was released, basically a year before any before that game was going to come out, which Pokemon
Yeah.
is another big game for Nintendo. And I know we got a couple old games like Banjo Kazooie. Everybody was super excited about, and it went off really well. And but it was still lackluster. I think the biggest thing that Switch 2 tried to promote was the upgrade to some of the games that they had to release in the Switch 1 that did not graphically run as well as they were originally promoting it to be, like the original Legend of Zelda, the open worldness, the Pokemon games with the glitchy trees in the background and all that kind of stuff. And and the Switch 2 definitely made a big upgrade for those graphics for the games they had already released, but new game releases for the new console, very lackluster.
Janie, what about you? We talked about this before this afternoon.
Yeah, that was the biggest disappointment about a system coming out. Is to me, just felt like they brought this out just so that they can play catch up and sell games that they weren't able to sell on the last gen consoles.
Right.
So current gen consoles, whether it be Elder Scrolls or NBA, 2K series or Madden, whatever. All those things that usually generate consoles, no matter which console you like, a lot of money because they come out every year, weren't able to be played on the Switch. And if it did come out on the Switch, it looked really effing bad, and so it's like wasn't playable. So it just felt like they're trying to play catch up, and I felt like that was a huge disappointment because if you waited a year, if you needed to wait a year for to have a decent lineup for at least one decent game, a Switch 2 original game to come out every month, it would have been fine. But it feels like, yes, you have Mario Kart, and then Donkey Kong, and then you stop there for till like next year. You know what I mean? And that's very disappointing. Like, that's super disappointing. And so I don't see someone like me wanting to actually buy this thing at all because even if I was a huge gamer and was currently playing all the Nintendo stuff right now, I still don't be like, well, it's not really worth it. Like, even when I remember there are times where I had debating between Xbox and PlayStation type of thing, and then I just had to look at, okay, what's the lineup of games? What has the most games that I'm going to be playing? And that would help me better make a decision on which console I was going to get. So yeah, very disappointing for me.
I'm on the same boat as both of you guys. It kind of reminds me there's a difference between like it's strange because the Switch 2 I have no urge to want to get it, even though I kind of did the same thing with the PS5 because the PS5 released nothing. Or barely, actually no, nothing, literally nothing, because Ratchet and Clank was probably, I think, was the first real current gen console game, and it came out a little bit later after the release of the console itself. um and I think the reason why was kind of like the whole supply and demand issue that was going on with the PS5. It was really hard to get one. So I was just trying really hard to secure it versus like the Switch 1 and the Switch 2, they both didn't really have an urgency to get because they were easy to get. Um I
Well, I
think
was
I
actually gonna say, I feel like a boost of the Switch 2 sales came from I don't know if you remember the tariff scare of how much Switch was actually going to end up
yes. Oh
costing and how
yeah.
much how rare it was actually going to get, but ended up being like nothing. Just big talk.
Well, not yet. Not yet, anyways. We don't know because there's still talks about it. I was going to mention that later on, but now that you already bring it up, there's already rumors about it still being raised somewhere between $50 to $100. They're just unsure of how it's going to affect the price yet because there's a lot of factors involved. There's all these different manufacturers that Nintendo goes through. So they got to consider all those manufacturing costs for all the different pieces from the different locations. They got to take into account where they're going to manufacture everything themselves, and it's a whole mess.
Hmm.
You mentioned before graphical upgrades. I don't think it's a big leap in graphical upgrade, but again, I haven't played anything on it. Have you noticed anything different when it comes to playing like the new games? I don't know if you played like the Donkey Kong or the Mario Kart world, um,
So
maybe
I
like
have played
loading
Mario
times or
Kart
anything
World.
like that. You have.
Mario Kart
So,
World actually came with my Switch, which I thought was
oh,
pretty
you
awesome.
bought a bundle.
Mm-hmm.
So how's the graphics and like loading time and all that for you?
I put in probably 50 hours already into Mario Kart World the minute I got my Switch, because I happened to go on vacation for a week the minute I got my Switch, and so I took it with me, which is one of the main reasons why I love having such a portable console like this. But I thought the graphics were great. I thought the maps were great. I didn't really feel much, and I've played most, if not all, of the old Mario Kart games as well. And it all like I enjoyed the open world aspect of this Mario Kart. While it was if you wanted to play more casually and learn the maps, you could. But then, you can also then have the set races as well, like, typical Mario Kart had. But graphic wise, I mean, just the open world concept, the fact that there were like other drivers driving around in the open world, it made it like it felt immersive, and I can see how that would take a lot of graphic information to be able to run, because I don't know if you saw the video of the one guy who followed a toad in a car for like an hour and a half, like across the
No.
map. Like they're actually they're coded to actively have a track to follow in the open world, and he followed a toad from one point to another, and like as it got in its car, drove across the map, the toad exited its car and entered a pipe. Like they put a lot of coding information into this game when it comes to the open worldness of making it feel immersive and real in a way.
Real, the cartoony type of real, I guess.
Exactly.
Danny, what about you? I mean, again, you haven't really played it, but like I know there's plenty of trailers out there for the game, and I think Donkey Kong looks great, but I don't think it's a graphical leap.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference. I believe there's a difference between graphical leaps and the mechanics behind what makes that you need to extend the immersion of a gameplay, or to create like this huge open world and not have the engine for like Zelda or whatever, because it's too much on it. So it depends. Like if you're just talking about like the visual aspect of graphics, I see nothing. But that's never been what the Switch is about, right? Like the Switch has never claimed to have the best graphics or the best visuals or the best whatever. But saying all that, knowing all that it still doesn't have, it still just looks like Switch Pro. You know, it just doesn't look like a Switch 2. Like you saw a graphical difference in PlayStation 4 to 5 when you put on Miles Morales Spider-Man, or the old Spider-Man game. And you saw a huge difference. You saw the graphics of what it actually looked like. The frame rate picked up dramatically. How much, the colors and the shading and all that BS stuff, the shadows that people get fanatic over. You saw a huge difference. Do not, and then it just got even better. I do not see a difference in any of these games right now. They all look exactly the same. Yes, Donkey Kong is probably the best looking game, but not by leaps and bounds. It's probably to me, it just looks like on the Hyrule Zelda level. Mario Kart, as impressive as it looks and the stuff you can do, is still just, to me, just looks like a very fancy DLC that came out. So it's a little disappointing because I expected it to be. I didn't expect it to be more. Actually, the Switch was exactly what I expected when I saw it, so I wasn't actually expecting more. But what I'm disappointed is calling it a new console like this and charging people so much money. It's like, it's different if you were it's the same cost as the other one and you just wanted to get it the same way like the LED was. Like you had an OLED Switch. Yeah, it might have cost $50 more, but whatever. If you wanted it, maybe you'll get it because you never had one. Like myself, I never had one. But to call it a whole new console like this, or to say it's their next gen console, to me is a little disappointing.
Actually,
And I would rather wait till the actual next gen console that they create. That maybe it's actually innovative.
We'll see if that actually happens. But speaking
Yeah.
of the price point, actually, that now that you mention it, Zoe, do you think that difference in price was worth it?
Okay, so I was gonna say, when it comes to games like Legend of Zelda, where you have the $10 upgrade to actually get the better graphics that the Switch 2 offers, because if you have the original Switch 1 game, you can play that on the Switch 2, and it will not have the upgraded graphics that they claim the Switch 2 has. But if you paid the $10 to get the upgrade, which I think is a little ridiculous, I have a roommate who really does love playing the Legend of Zelda games, and he says that $10 was worth the upgrade for the graphic upgrade that he got on the Switch 2. Now, Pokemon does not have a $10 pay to be able to get an upgrade in the graphics, but granted, Pokemon did not upgrade their graphics the way that Legend of Zelda did. As somebody who really enjoys shiny hunting and is really obsessed with EVs and IVs or whatever, the ability to have a console that, I mean, it's one thing to have the trees not lag in the background, but it's another thing to actually have the engine capacity to have more Pokemon appear, and that changes up gameplay in and of itself compared to playing Mario Kart or whatever. And that's it's a minor upgrade. It's what do you call it? It's a quality of life upgrade that only really hardcore gamers like myself who get a little too obsessed about getting the perfect shiny really do appreciate about the upgrade. But casual kids who got this game because their parents wanted to make them happy for Christmas, like that, they don't really need the ability to get the perfect shiny, so it really is a give and take. It's a situational type thing. If you already have a Switch 1, I don't know if the graphics upgrade for the Switch 2 is really worth it as a casual gamer, especially considering which games they're currently selecting to do it for and the $10 for it to happen. But this has also come from somebody who's dealt with, Skyrim updating their graphics every 2 to 3 years and
You play?
still
Are you
willing
the
to
one
come
that
back.
plays Skyrim all the time? You keep on giving them that money?
Oh yeah, me and Nico. Are you kidding me? Me and my roommate,
Mm,
we're both obsessed with that game. Like
awful.
every year, every 2 year, every
You're
time
so
they want to give us a
you're the
graphics
reason
upgrade.
why Elder Scrolls 6 hasn't come out yet. Then.
I believe it. I believe it. That is the issue with being a obsessive gamer.
What do you think so far of the upgrade in hardware when it comes to the Joy-Cons? The Joy-Cons were a big issue in Switch 2. Oh, sorry, the first Switch. Um, Mostly because of the sliding issue. Sometimes they'll slide off the rails and they'll fall off. And then on top of that, there's still the controversy right now of the Joy-Con drifting, the stick drift, which they
Yeah.
did not fix for this new iteration. They actually, when they were talking about specs before the console came out, they kind of brushed it off or ignored it for that matter. When they were asked about it, they were just like, "Oh, it wasn't really that much of an issue." So no, there's no upgrade in the hardware with that. But how does the this quote unquote switch feel like with the snapping on the new Joy-Cons?
I'm not gonna lie. I really like the new model that the Switch 2 offers when it comes to almost everything about it. Um, there the I had the issue with my Switch where I would have the right Joy-Con slide off on me, and it wasn't even just the Joy-Con itself. It was literally a latch that was on the Switch console part, I guess. And the only way to get it fixed was to like send it in and spend like $60 to $120 to have a professional fix it for me, and that was
Woo.
really obnoxious. Yeah. And at that point, you would just say get a new Joy-Con. But at that point, it wasn't even the Joy-Con, it was my Switch itself that wouldn't hold my thing in place. But this little, like, it was, how do I describe it? It was definitely the way that I would grip the Switch because I would squeeze it in a way that would definitely affect the latch. But now that it is a click in place, that instinctual motion to squeeze the console while you're hand holding it does not offer the same problem because all you're really doing is pushing the Joy-Cons further in place rather than forcing it in an improper direction. And I do
Okay.
see more longevity with that.
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense. Okay, that's good then.
Yeah.
Also, I guess all the extra $150 went to that then.
Like, well, I was definitely one of the skeptics of not wanting to jump on the Switch 2 bandwagon because
At least not right away.
I was
Yeah.
very lucky to have friends that were kind enough to give this to me for my birthday, which just happened to be 4
Uh,
days after the release. So if it was up to me, I probably would have waited until I actually had a game release that I was interested in, like the new Pokemon game and such. But just because I was gifted this so early, I was able to enjoy the console sooner. And I was very much surprised with how I guess how much better I thought that this was compared to the Switch 1 that I had. Because I only had the original version of the Switch 1. I never had the OLED or anything like that. My roommate did, and the screen was definitely better on the OLED, but the Switch 2 screen, while bigger and clearer, and it's really nice when you're just trying to use it as a handheld. Um, it's bigger, and while that's
mhm.
great and all, it's as a portable console, it's definitely not as easy as portable as it used to be. Because I used to be able to just stick my Joy Cons in one pocket and then the screen in another pocket, but this screen is definitely too big to fit in my pocket anymore.
I got to hold one, and it's actually lighter than I thought it would be. It's ever so slightly heavier than the original Switch, but you would barely know a difference. And it's surprising because I don't know what it is. Like the technology has gotten better, or like the actual hardware. Because I assumed when the Steam Deck came out, it was gonna be some heavy ass motherfucker that like you had to lug around. And
Yeah.
my buddy of mine that I worked with, he had one, and he let me hold that one and play Hollow Knight at the time. And it was light. It was so incredibly light. So I'm just surprised that, if anything, the Steam Deck, if I could remember correctly, the Steam Deck was probably a little bit slightly heavier than the Switch 2.
Now,
So
the
I'm
Steam
really
Deck
surprised.
has internet access, right? Like they can actually do like streaming services, help on YouTube and all that kind of stuff as well, right?
Yeah, you can implement your own operating system in it, and uh, you can put your own web browsers. You can pretty much customize it however you want. It's a portable PC, so you can pretty much
Yeah.
customize it almost however you want, as long as it's. I mean, even if you do illegal stuff on it, you can still do whatever you want. But um,
I will say that's the
it's
one
meant to be
thing,
modded legally.
right? That's the one thing I will say that Switch 2, like it used to have, Switch 1 had access to a few streaming services, but Switch 2 does not have access to any streaming services right now. And with such a bigger screen and a clear, clear, I guess input or whatever, you would think that it would be like if I could watch Netflix on this thing, like this is my
Well,
carry around.
I'm sure it's a licensing issue with that, because
Yes,
like you know how
they're
lawyers
working
are and
on
the
it.
law is, yeah, they their contract or whatever rights that they own in order to put their apps on the Switch 1 are probably specifically just for the Switch 1. And I'm sure
Yeah.
that maybe there's other coding issues maybe
Oh
that
yeah,
they've
no,
run
like
into that they
even
have to do.
Fortnite, you had to download a Switch 2 Fortnite because even if the Switch 1 Fortnite doesn't
Right.
work
Yeah.
anymore. Like there were little
Yeah.
things like that. So I'm like, so there's like the Switch 2 has a lot of potential if they could unlock those kind of things again, but with what they released game wise and capacity wise was
But
a lot.
there's your point too, because what Danny said. So regarding, like, he was saying that the Switch 2 was kind of just playing catch up. Like they're just trying to jump on another graphical upgrade to kind of stay as much on par with the PS5 and the Xbox. So maybe they jumped the gun a bit too quickly. They should have waited a bit, so that way they can put streaming service on there and other apps on there, so that way you guys can actually use it for more than just a handful of games that you could already, and most of them you could already play in the on the PS1, on the Switch 1 anyways.
Mhm. Mhm.
Since you mentioned all that stuff, we mentioned Mario Kart. Mario Kart's got a little bit of controversy when it comes to Danny. You explained this a lot better than I did about the racetracks.
So for what I understand, a lot of the racetracks that people, when they play this game, they enjoy the levels. They enjoy playing the levels, and they enjoy that three lap structure of these levels, because there's a lot of intricates of learning lots of tricks and maneuvers and things like that, or shortcuts, I should say. In the way the last game was Mario Kart 8, and people enjoyed it very much, trying to figure those things out. This new game has a lot of potential because they added grinding system, they added wall riding, and they added a jumping ability, basically. And so, and that along with everything else that the old Mario Kart had. So that opens up a plethora of ways to figure things out and play these boards and do all types of shortcuts. And that's what Pocket Mario Kart people love, right? Figuring out these
Yeah.
crazy shortcuts, doing crazy stuff, whatever. The sad part about it is that and Zoe's gonna have to explain exactly what aspect of it, but their main multiplayer, their main online service, has a random effect of when you go to pick a board. And people were picking random, or you could pick whatever level you want, and you would have to play from one level that you're at that attaches to the next level. And the level would then be a highway level, per se. They call it the highway, whatever. And there's be this long, boring stretch of just highway that goes forward forever. And then the actual level, which people want to play, is just one lap, which is very disappointing. Instead of just playing three laps like they would and seeing if they can win or whatever, they have this real super long, boring, just casual type drive, it feels like. And yes, there are some intricates if you're in the back, but if you're front running that, pretty much you're front running up front for the whole thing, or you're taking a bunch of fucking mushrooms from the last place item, pucks items, and bagging, so to speak. So it became very boring for a lot of people, to the point where the glitch was, if you picked random, you would automatically get a different board that wasn't the highway. It wouldn't pick a highway. So everybody just picked random so that they can get an actual level and play an actual 3x structure. And every now and then you still get, someone asshole would pick a highway and it was select that, but still, it wasn't as frequent. They updated it and decided to go, no, we want you to do this freaking highway. So now we're going to give you a random actually pick a highway that's included. So people were forced to do highways after a while, and it was very disappointing for them, to the point where they weren't playing whatever that main structure is and doing a different type of ranked aspect of it, to just go I want to pick regular levels. This is what we want to do. This is what we're having fun with. It's not this goddamn highway thing.
So the
What do you
reason
think of the
why,
highways, Zoe?
yeah, go ahead, because you told me you didn't know about this, right?
No, I know of the highway. I personally have not played the online multiplayer version of the Mario World. I was playing with my boyfriend. He was pushing me to play with him. He got really obsessed with it. So I did not realize that the randomization of the selecting a highway was. I mean, there are maps that have one lap, 2 lap, 3 laps. I think there's even a really short map that has like 4 or 5 laps in it.
Yeah.
And that one's really obnoxious, because of all the constant barriers and stuff, and whatever. But yeah, I never played the online competitive version of the game. I didn't
That's
realize
funny.
that was a struggle.
So
I was always playing with
so
friends.
yeah, so the struggle was that, okay, let's say you played a regular map, three structure map, and then it would connect to the one that you saw was really annoying because it's really short. You were just playing this highway, and the highway is 3 or 4 laps. It's considered to be 3 or 4 laps, but it's just a straight path. It's completely just not 100% straight, but damn near straight of a path, and there aren't really many shortcuts to do in these things, and people try to figure them out. So it is just a short path that you're trying to do, a straight path that you're trying to do. Then when you got, because I remember seeing one where there was a level that was, like you said, usually 5 laps, but when it got to the end, it was only 1 lap. So imagine doing this really boring highway scene, which you don't like, you're already annoyed by it, just to get to the map that ends like that, because it's 1 lap where it should be 5.
Yeah.
And that's where the frustration, where a lot of people were super frustrated at. So they were like, I don't want to play the highway. I get it. I see what you're doing. I see where it's at, but that is the most buoyant aspect of Mario Kart, is that highway stretch. Their levels are phenomenal. I think the levels are really interesting. I love the way, like, the Dino Junction, I think it's like all these dinosaurs, and every lap is completely different based on more dinosaurs that come out. Like, they did a good job with that. They have phenomenal, like the Donkey Kong ones they constantly show, which I'm not sure if it's rehash or whatever, but it's like giant Donkey Kong thing. That's like, playing a level like that is fun, you know.
Yeah,
But
no, it's very immersive, and I will say that the trick shots and the shortcuts with the jumping the line, the guardrail grinds, like those were awesome to learn how to do on the open world aspect of it, for sure.
Mhm.
And then trying to translate that into an actual race was, I mean, I'm butt cheeks at the game. I'm not gonna lie. My usual placements are about 4th and 5th place, but I can imagine when you're doing open world and you have nothing but a long stretch, and you're just only thing that could stop them is a blue shell, and they're just bagging
Yeah.
freaking mushrooms to get to the end. That can be pretty obnoxious in a multiplayer aspect.
Yeah, most like high, because I like to watch like the #1 players from Mario 8, Kart 8, like in the background while I'm working, or just streamers who've gotten popular, who like, I'm learning the game and gotten really popular. They're all like, well, I'm just gonna bag this. We're doing a highway, and everybody would just stay in the back in this bag, and then it's like, okay, we're almost towards the last little quarter. Let me use all these items I smuggled, by staying in the back and not getting shocked and not getting hurt, and then I can just zoom up to the front. Okay, done. And it's like, oh, that's very disappointing to look at now. And even then, you can hear it, and they're like, oh man, I wish we could just do a level. I like, in the beginning especially, it's like, I just want to try these new levels, not this highway. And it was so it I feel bad. Like I get what they were doing. I get what they're trying to do to make it like this huge MMO open world, not MMO, but open world aspect for Mario Kart. But that's not why people play Mario Kart. That's not why a lot of people play Mario Kart. It's for the competitive nature. It's like turning Smash and going, you know what? We're gonna make Smash Online only an RPG game, and you have this huge story. It's like, no, they play it because they want to fight each other. That's the
You know,
competitive nature
that was
of
the
it is
one
the
thing I was
most.
gonna say. Nintendo is notorious for making these quote unquote competitive family games that they do not want their consumers to use competitively. Like
Yeah.
that as somebody like for me personally, I love Need for Speed. I've played like 3 different versions of Need for Speed. I even have the Hot Pursuit on my Switch too because I love Need for Speed. But the everything about Mario Kart is if you're in first place, you be prepared because you're not supposed to stay in first place. The point's not to just kick everybody's butt. The point is to get screwed over and over and over again. So that is the one thing that Mario Kart has done wonderfully at driving that point home. Is like it's not supposed to be balanced. It's not supposed to be fair. You're not supposed to always just ride first place and kick your younger siblings' butt. It's a family game. We're Nintendo.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
get it, yeah.
Nintendo's notorious for a lot of things. That's one of the things I wanted to bring up was just how notorious they are with not being very fan friendly or user friendly, but like just the community. I guess community
It's just
friendly, not
competitive friendly because
necessarily.
community is one
Well,
thing, but I feel like
not
most communities founded as competitive aspect. No,
not just the not competitive, because you're absolutely right. That's actually a really good point. But I just mean like Nintendo in general, they don't like anything they can't control. Period.
yeah,
And like for example, the Mario Kart World issue, and now that you mentioned things like competitive gaming, but also things like legally being able to mod your system or legally be able to do whatever you want with the system that you paid for. That was one of the things I was going to mention was how they had changed the EULA agreement that they have, and it's very specific wording to where Nintendo won't allow you to do literally anything to your console that they don't allow you to do, like third party software, firmware upgrades, hardware. Um, Nothing that Nintendo allows can be touched, and pretty much if Nintendo deems it unworthy for the console, then they could literally brick your console. They could literally stop you from playing your games. They can blacklist your console and you can't have any more updates, which means you can't get online, which means you can't play most of their library because it requires online service. That's one thing. Or for example, um, getting copyright strikes for people playing the game or making fan media, whether it be like art or a machinima or just even like let's plays sometimes. Like they'll copyright strike those people. What else do I got here? The Joy-Con stick drift issue that people were adamant about when the first Switch came out and still continue to complain and still continue to have to get them replaced. And yet Nintendo decided to ignore the issue with the Switch 1 and then continue it on with the Switch 2. Um,
see, I've had multiple Switch drift issues, but personally, it was never straight out of the box. It just felt like the Joy Cons wore down very quickly and very easily,
well,
and so it
that was
made
the issue.
sense. Yeah, it
Yes.
made sense for Nintendo to be like, "Well, just buy new ones," like, and it was just a pain in the
which
butt.
is
But
which is
yeah,
fair which is fair in a year or 2 or 3, but not in 3 months or 6 months or 9 months that you've already had the console, like
yeah.
depending on how
And
often you actually play the game. Go ahead, Danny.
my Switch OLED had a stick drift problem after 3 months
Mm-hmm.
because I
Really?
was playing one of the one of the I got it super late, so I was playing the last Legend of whatever Zelda game, and I didn't know that was stick drift, and that's the first time I ever actually even experienced stick drift. I never had stick drift in any of my other I mostly did PlayStation, but even Xbox never fucking had it for me.
Yeah.
So I was playing, fucking trying to aim at some bomb or some shit, trying to do it, and the fucking thing would not aim. And I thought maybe my hand switching, and I'm like, no, and I left it alone. I'm like, oh no, this fucking thing has stick drift. Oh my god, this is horrible. This is
Yeah.
not that old. It's a brand new console type of thing, you know. So I got a pro controller, but still, it was like I didn't expect that so soon.
Yeah, well, once I got
Go
a
ahead.
Pro controller, I used that a lot more than my Joy-Cons.
Well, so that's the thing though. That like, do you feel like that's kind of a shady thing that they're doing on purpose because they want more pro controllers or more Joy-Cons to be sold in order for them to continue being profitable? Because like, again, they're not really community friendly. They're very family focused, and their product is more aimed for kids and teenagers and the youngins. And then sometimes they'll cater to the hardcore when it comes to, you know, the Legend of Zeldas and the Metroid and such. But everything is mostly for the kids. So their behavior, I feel like, is just very inappropriate compared to the way like Sony and Xbox handles their community. Do you think like Nintendo needs to like step it up or like change their behaviors on these type of things, or is this just business as usual and it's okay?
I don't know how good or bad this is gonna sound. I feel like with them being I guess Sony's also a Japanese company. I think there's just a lot of leniency that is given over the years when it comes to like almost everything that they've released. That yeah, it's a very scammy and scummy practice, but I don't know, like other than just being like, yeah, here's the problem, here's how we're gonna fix the problem. We're gonna use like, titanium circles or whatever the hell you want. I don't know. It just always felt like a very formal company, and to not get that kind of response isn't too surprising to me, because they've just always been very careful with what they do and don't talk about.
Well, but that's the thing though. They can be as careful as they want, but the internet still exposes it all. Like we're aware of all the shady practices that they do and all the well, I wouldn't say shady, but just the obnoxious business practices that they do. The things
This
that kind
casual
of
dismissal.
like they and I'm not saying that Sony and Xbox aren't at fault for the practices they're doing. It's just we're specifically talking about Nintendo right now. But like Nintendo is setting a precedence for bad behaviors for the rest of the gaming industry. For example, I think it was an NBA game was one of the first games that was $70, and all of a sudden other games are now jumping the bandwagon on that. And now Nintendo, you know, granted, a part of it might be because of the tariffs, but they had announced this before the tariff issue that they're possibly selling games that are like $80 and possibly even 90 on physical copies. It all depends. So like they're setting a precedence on the pricing in the future, because if we let people get away with that, then Sony and Microsoft are going to be like, well, Nintendo did it, so I guess we can do it too and see if we can get away with it as well. And then the same thing goes with like Joy-Con drift. Well, Nintendo did it, maybe we can try to get away with it too, and now you have to buy a pro controller for PlayStation. You know, there's issues like that like just the bad behaviors, when left unchecked, it causes chaos for the rest of the industry. Danny, I really want to know your thoughts on that, because you're very much on capitalism and very much on the, you know, business is business. They're going to do what they're going to have to do. And of course, me and you, we're at least on agreement of just like, you know, speak with your wallets. If you don't like this practice, then speak with your wallets.
I think that Nintendo, can you hear me?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
got you.
Sorry. I think that Nintendo is big on, we create the system. I don't think they fully realized. I think PlayStation has perfected the stick drift aspect of the controller. Sorry, they perfected the controller aspect. And I think they know they made the perfect controller, so they prided themselves on the perfect controller. So you don't have as much stick drift issues and things like that happen.
No,
From
I'm
their
just
controllers.
saying
Usually,
as an
oh, no,
example
no,
of just yeah,
no,
bad
I know, but I'm
behaviors.
saying, but their behavior is a little different for like PlayStation, whatever. When that's what they pride it on.
Uh-huh.
Now, when it comes to Nintendo, they created a system and they're just gonna stick with it, and that is what it is. We're not gonna come out with a bunch of different fixes and models and blah 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 and all these different patents to fix it because that would take too much time. And we know they have this real hubris attitude of we know you're gonna buy it, doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And if you're a
Yeah.
problem, you're gonna buy it too. Like they always had that. Like we know our Mario games are never gonna go down in value than $60 no matter how old they are. You buy a fucking a Wii U game now, it's still $60. Is it worth $60? No. Like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, this is the way they are. So I think it's just that. Now, I think there are some issues where you're going to be seeing some people try to copy that model of like, well, we're going to do our games $80 because Nintendo's doing it and they're making money, and then it backfires. And I think we have seen a few issues where it is starting to backfire, and it's like, oh, our sales are down. Why? Because your game costs too fucking much and nobody knows who you are. It's just like you can't be Nintendo. You're not that big yet. And when there are real console wars, it is little things like that are going to matter, right? People are going to be like, well, which one should I play? The one with the stick drift issue or the one without? Okay, I'll play without all the fucking issues like that. And just for Nintendo's like, it's I kind of agree with them. We're in the point where like we are Mario, we are the leading industry. We are Nintendo, we are the leading industry in this. If you don't like the Switch 2 pricing, so what? You're still gonna buy it, and it was proven 100% right. People still fucking bought it. A lot of people bought it still, and a lot of people bitched about it, but they still bought it with whatever issues that they already knew was going to happen. And it's very disappointing. But
I was very surprised by how many people still bought the Switch 2, even with
me too.
all of the arguments and backlash about it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was
very
honestly
surprised.
hoping it was going to be another version of what was it called? The Wii U. So because the Wii U
Yeah.
did great. The Wii is probably one of the highest or quickest selling consoles ever. And that was an amazing accomplishment. But then they released the Wii U and people were just like, this is just a Wii with a big screen and it's portable, but we still can't take it, you can't take it with you. You got it's still a whole console that you need to hook up to your TV. Or power outlet, I should say, if anything. So people spoke with their wallets, and they didn't do very well in the sales for the Wii U, and that's when they had to go back to the drawing board, and that's when the Switch happened, because I guess the Wii U was kind of like the blueprints, or however you want to put it, of what the Switch is, something portable. So they learned their lesson from that because the people spoke with their wallets, and I think that's an important thing, and that's what upsets me the most, is that they didn't do it this time around because they were blinded by, and I'm sorry to say this, Zoe, because that would probably include you if you were to if you had the money to buy the system, but like the fans are kind of blinded by their fandom. And
Pokemon, absolutely, absolutely. If they had released a brand new Pokemon game with the Switch 2, or a brand new Animal Crossing game with the Switch 2, or like a good, like any good game with the Switch 2, I absolutely would have bought it because it is a Nintendo exclusive thing. Like Sober said, we give this to Nintendo because Nintendo owns the rights to these characters and game engines that as children we loved and as adults we love to go back to. And it's the only reason why any of us decide to go, because like I was gonna say, because I think we all miss the PSP, man. I think we all miss being able to have that portability with it, and the Wii U being the chunky clunky thing that it was, that really didn't offer a whole lot, I guess, which what made it crash. But if somebody else tried to, offer something like this for the same amount of money without any of the classic names, games, and nostalgia, they would do it, would not be nearly as successful. Otherwise, everybody would be
Yeah.
having Steam Decks and stuff.
Yeah. So do you think at all, I guess the main question, so we could start wrapping up, is do you think Nintendo should be changing its ways? Or, I mean, financially we already know they're doing just fine, but we're talking about community and fan perspective. Do you think Nintendo should change their attitude towards the way the treatment of their brand, their console, their fans, their community? Or are they just doing just fine?
If they opened up to their community and allowed us to do what we wanted to do with our ideas, with what they had given us, I'm pretty sure they would make so much more money. We could make the
Yes.
fandom could make them so much more money if they allowed us to interact with each other and have that aspect. I do not know what it is, what values, what concepts, what needs that they require that stops them from opening up to their community like this. It does if they could ever, it would be a whole new world.
Well,
That
to play devil's advocate real quick, because I want to know Danny's opinion. To play devil's advocate, what you mentioned right now, the reason why they hold everything so close to their chest is because they don't want their image of their beloved games and characters tarnished. Because you have to admit, the internet is toxic as fuck.
Oh, dude.
There are some
Google Vaporeon. Like,
there's disgusting people out there. There's perverted people out there. There's inappropriate people out there that will turn your product into something that does not fit your morals or ethics. And I think Nintendo knows that. So they keep up much of their stuff close to the chest in order to keep that stuff away. Granted, they're not 100% keeping it away because people are still going to get a hold of stuff. But that's why some people get sued. Some people get copyright strikes. For example, Power World is a very violent video game. It's Pokemon with guns is what we always explained it as. And they're getting a lawsuit over it right now.
My Mario Brothers fleshlight.
Stop it.
Oh shit!
No, the
Tickling
kids
beard.
that played these games when Nintendo first started becoming mainstream, way back in the old days, those kids are now adults. Okay, I'm sorry to say it. We've grown up. Okay, they're gonna have adult interests, adult wants, adult quote unquote needs, but at the end of the day, real like I guess common sense isn't common, right? So that obviously
No,
people would understand that there's a difference between what actual Mario is and what isn't. But the yeah, I mean, I get it. At the end of the day, I get it. You want to keep your image clean, but at the end of the day, the internet is only getting bigger and the world's only
Well,
getting smaller.
there's two things you got to realize. Nintendo is a lot bigger overseas than it is in the US. PlayStation and Xbox are a lot bigger in the US than they are overseas. There are more people overseas than they are in the US. So, yes, the community is a US, very much a US community on a whole has a small power, but the Japanese and Chinese community that actually falls in love with this shit, in Korean that falls in love with this cutesy stuff of this, regardless of age, they're making more money from. And they're making more money from children all the way up to people who are like in their mid 40s because of that, of what you said. And in America, the main concept of what they're going for is not the sobers and the drunkens. They don't actually care if you're buying it because especially for the people like sober, they know that sober has to still buy it because sober has 3 kids that will love it, right? So they're gonna get sober's money regardless because the 3 kids want my money and they know that, and that's where it leads to where PlayStation and Xbox don't have that. Yes, they try with Astro Boy and it works a little bit with Astro Boy, but when every other game that you have is bright and colorful and Fortnite-y, then yes, that is going to attract towards kids, and the kids are going to want to buy, and the kids are going to force the parents or ask the parents if this is what I want for my birthday, and they know that, and that's where they're always going to be able to make their money no matter what, because Mario and Peach and Sonic and Donkey Kong is for kids at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I guess as a parent, you would sooner buy your kid a Switch than a regular tablet, right? You'd rather have them have
Correct.
that constraint
Correct.
of these games rather than open access to the internet like that.
Exactly. Like if I had to, yes, we have a Switch, and that's what they play, and that's what they're only gonna play. But if we did not have a Switch, I would honestly. The only main reason I got the Switch was because, well, I can start introducing my son into games, into playing stuff, and to learning all that stuff. That's why I originally got the Switch to begin with, and I believe there's a lot of people who will do it. And going back to a lot of the messed up things that corporate do, which I sometimes find to be smart, is the price point. Right? Price point of a Switch One is now $299, $300. and the price point of a Switch 2 is $450. So when you're in the market to buying this thing for Christmas or your kid's birthday or whatever, and you're like, well, I could get him the Switch 1 for $300, but damn, it's expensive. Oh well, might as well pay the $150 to get a game, the Mario Kart game. They'll have that game with it. I'm gonna pay $80 to buy it, or $60, whatever it is, to buy a game anyway. Might as well put the extra money in and buy the Switch 2, and they'll have a game. Here you go. I believe that's super smart. I really do, because you shouldn't really be selling the first gens anymore as much, because you need to stay away from that. You need to be selling the Switch too. And so if you are going to sell this the first one, raise the price. And I think the same thing for Xbox kind of took that lead, which I think is a little bit smart. If like, yeah, we're going to raise the price on I forgot what it's called, the S whatever one, the lesser profitable one, the lesser cheaper version. Because like if you want to buy an Xbox, then you're gonna pay the money, especially now. It's like we need to make our money up. The games are out. You either have one, if you don't. So if you buy one now, it's because you really want, or you want to jump in the bandwagon. And especially when a new console comes out, somebody like, well, then we'll see where that price point should be.
Hey, before we wrap up, I got to bring up something that's hilarious. And this is completely off topic, but we were mentioning tariffs and the increase in prices and stuff. Can you believe the tariff issue has gotten so bad? Mind you, we're for the people listening, watching at home and stuff. Me and Danny are old men. We're in our 40s, so we've been drinking Arizona iced tea for a very, very, very long time. And Arizona iced tea has been 99 cents for 30 fucking years. And I found out today that because of the tariffs, he actually has to increase the price of Arizona iced tea. To what? We don't know. But I think that's freaking hilarious, and it says a lot about our economy and where we're going, and just the future of the gaming industry, where how they're going to be increasing prices with that shit too.
He had a very famous interview talking about his whole beliefs about not raising the prices. That poor
Yeah.
man must be going through it right now.
Apparently the aluminum cans that they source from in Canada, their tariffs are affecting them, so he has to raise the prices to accommodate the can cost.
Wow.
Crazy shit. So yeah, things are gonna get worse before they get better, and that's just how we're gonna see Nintendo, because they, like Danny said, they're Japanese, or Zoe said, like they're a Japanese company, so the prices are going to raise, and we kind of just have to tough it out, be a little bit more selective with the products that you buy, not necessarily the moral and the ethics and stuff that we talked about today, but I'm just talking about financially. Just
Yeah, the
be
Japanese
smart
dollar has
about
been
your
killing.
yeah, but also a lot of where they source their hardware from isn't in Japan. Like they may
Okay, yeah,
develop a lot of their stuff in Japan, but like the hardware for the Switch 2 is in different places like Taiwan or China or Thailand, or different places. Um, Different metals that they use, the plastics that they use, everything is sourced in different places, so the tariffs still affect them. Um, so yeah, just be smart with your money, I guess, and whether you purchase the Switch, because you think Nintendo is a good product, or because you just want to play a fun game, that's all up to you. I fully support it either way. I think this is just a fun discussion to have, and a little bit informative, with the opinion of 3 veteran gamers in general. Tell us what you think in the comments. I have my Twitter. I refuse to call it X, but I have my Twitter. If you want to hit me up and we could discuss that further, I am always an advocate of talking and discussing opinions, whether they clash or not, just as long as we discuss things civilly. Don't be an immature asshole. And yeah, and we can have some fun just talking about the video games and stuff. You guys have any last thoughts before we close up?
Okay.
Zoe?
Yeah, I guess really just to wrap up my opinion, if you are a Nintendo fan, a Pokemon fan, if you have real interest in investing a lot of time and energy into the game, I do think the Switch 2 is worth buying. Maybe if you want to hold off for a real game you want interested in, I totally recommend that. But if you are a casual parent or a casual gamer and you already have the Switch 1, I don't think the upgrade is quite worth it until you're something that's worth it about it. But yeah, again, $500 is a lot. of money to put into it.
Yeah.
Especially for
And that's
somebody like
without the
me who
games.
plays a lot of Xbox and stuff. Yeah. But I travel a lot, so the portability of the Switch is a big factor for me, and why I also very much enjoy it and will always invest money in Nintendo. So,
Mm.
yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll see you guys in another episode. Laters.
Bye.